Now, our next story is a waste of energy, literally. But that doesn't mean that the guest that we've got on it is, because it turns out that smart meters are actually pretty dim. Nearly 4 million of them aren't working properly because they weren't in smart mode when they should have been, leaving people paying for gas and electricity that they didn't use. Let's talk to consumer expert Adrian Mills. Adrian, very good to see you.
Nice to see you, Mike.
Welcome to the Independent Republican, Mike Graham. Smart meters not being very smart comes as no surprise to me, but I didn't realise quite so many of them, nearly 4 million.
Well, you've got to bear in mind there's over 30 million installed in homes across the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And, of course, the government and the people that regulate this say, well, actually, there's only a small percentage, but it's 10%.
That's a big percentage.
It is a big percentage. And the question, do you have a smart meter?
I do not have a smart meter.
And I don't either.
And I refuse to have one as well.
Do you know something? The amount of people that say to me, oh, I've actually had a letter from my supplier and I've got to have a smart meter fitted, or I've had a phone call, I've had a letter. You do not, under any circumstances, have to comply with those letters. You are under no obligation, legally or whatever, to have a smart meter fitted in your home.
Yes.
Now, the question after that is, who then reads your meter? I read my own meter at home and I send the information online.
Most people do that, yeah. I refuse to do that as well.
Why do you refuse to do that?
On the grounds that I'm not employed by the energy company, right? I've got Scottish Power. They supply my electricity. I don't have gas. As far as I'm concerned, it's their job to read the meter. They should send somebody out and get them to read the meter.
Well, I think they send somebody out once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
And the problem with those smart meters, by the way, is that they say that actually the information is still being read and stored, but, of course, you will be getting a bogus bill. You will either be getting one that's far too low, that in, say, 6 months a year when the problem is solved, you'll get this humongous bill and go, hang on a minute. And go, oh, well, we're sorry, your meter wasn't actually registering at the time. So it throws your finances out of kilter.
The other thing, my other pet peeve about these energy businesses is that they're always trying to demand that you give them a direct debit. And we've seen loads of stories, I did a couple last week, of people who have had thousands of pounds taken out of their account because of some error, and then you never get it back for, like, weeks on end.
I have said, and I'll say it again now, because we're going into the spring, the summer, where we're using, hopefully, less energy.
Yeah.
Go online, look at the statements and look at how much money you have on account with your supplier.
Yeah.
I know one of the exec producers here actually said to me when I mentioned on another show, they went, oh, my God, I discovered I had nearly 700 quid on account.
Don't give it to them.
No, you can ask for it back. It's not easy to get it back, but it's your money. It's not theirs.
But you see, I prefer to go around the other way, where I go, I'll tell you what I'll do. You send me a bill, I'll pay the bill. I'm not going to give you money for a bill that you think I might get 6 months down the road.
Future.
And then you can hold all that money for me just in case I can't afford it. You know, I'll tell you whether I can afford it, and I'll tell you when I'm going to pay you. And, of course, then they say, oh, well, we give you a better rate if you just go on a direct debit.
That is
don't want it.
That is the problem, is that if you have a smart meter, then you will probably be offered something a few percent cheaper in terms of unit price than somebody who hasn't. But actually, it's infinitesimal. The problem, I think, and this is what the direction we're going in, is dynamic pricing.
Yes.
And what they're suggesting here is that we're going to charge you a lot more when you use your meter in, say, the peak hours. So any time from about 9 o'clock in the morning right through to about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But then I go, well, hang on a minute. I look at my 93-year-old mum, and she likes to have a little bit of heating on, and she uses a washing machine, goes to bed early. So does that mean she's going to be paying a lot more than me? What about people at hospitals and places? It's too dark an area.
And I mean, I know it's a big area, this that we're talking about, but I know plenty of people in business, particularly people that run hospitality, restaurants, pubs, that kind of thing. I mean, they've been absolutely crippled by the increase in energy prices because, you know, they've gone from paying... I know a guy who's gone from paying something like $150,000 a year to $400,000 a year for his electricity.
Yeah, I can believe that.
It's not sustainable.
Well, and especially you talk about hospitality. My wife's a restaurateur, you know, and that's exactly what happened to us, is that every single thing that you can imagine in the hospitality industry, of course, then you get customers saying, oh, the prices have gone up, it's expensive. But we've got to cover that cost somewhere.
Yeah, exactly right. So what do you do? I mean, how do you know if your smart meter isn't working properly? And if it's not, how do you fix that?
Well, you contact your supplier if there's any inkling that there's a problem. And the only way you'll get an inkling there's a problem is if perhaps your bills are much lower than they were last year. But it could theoretically be a problem that goes back a whole year. So you're never quite sure. I would suggest, and I know you don't want to do, is just keep reading your meter and thinking, that seems fairly reasonable.
I'm just a bit curmudgeonly about that. I mean, I wouldn't advise anybody else to do that. I just don't particularly want to do it. But, yeah, I mean, obviously that does make sense. If you can find it, if you can locate it, and if you can read it, because not everybody can.
No. And I would suggest that if you are forced to actually have a meter. So some people change supplier and they go, well, we'll only offer you this rate if you have a smart meter. You think, well, actually, I'll go with it. No, talk to your Citizens Advice Bureau and they will say to you, do not fall for this. It is absolutely not in their remit to push you to have something that you don't want.
Because was there not a time as well when some of these companies would actually break into your house and put the meter in?
Well, they've
stopped doing that
There's
now,
quite a few cases of people that perhaps were on benefits where perhaps were finding it difficult to pay, and there was quite a lot of footage on the news of people sort of knocking down the door and just fitting something, and then people coming back and going, who the hell's been in the house?
Exactly.
Outrageous, totally outrageous.
But they're not allowed to do that, really, are they?
No, they're not. No, they're not. Although a number of the companies actually withdrew from doing that, but quite casually, they've slowly eased back into that market because they feel that actually there is a lot of debt that needs to be recovered. Rightly so, but there's ways and means of going about it.
Yes, but of course, most people I talk to who are quite happy to pay for what they've used and quite happy to be treated fairly, they always say the problem with all of this business, this gas, electricity, energy business, is that it's the consumer that gets stuck every single time you turn around. You know, electricity prices have gone up because of Ukraine. Oh, just pay more. You know, there's been a bit of a shortfall because some companies have gone bust. You pay more. You know, we've got to have some green renewables. You pay some more for that. You know, we're always getting the bill.
Well, you've got to remember as well, the green renewables are purely dependent on sunshine and wind. And if the weather's
not... because we keep subsidising
Absolutely. And if the weather's not giving you what you want, then... And my fear is, I mean, who is going to be getting up at, say, 11 o'clock at night or before they go to bed and putting on their washing machine? You know, if you've got a few kids that you can... It's just another way of screwing money out of the consumer. And I guarantee... I mean, what they say is that they want 75% of all households to have smart meters by the year 2025. It is not going to happen. It's impossible. And then the government, well, of course, it won't be this government, will it? It'll probably be another government, and it'll just roll on another few years.
Exactly. So anyway, the situation is this. If you think you're getting ripped off, you know, get in touch with the company, get in touch with consumers, and get in touch with people like yourself.
Absolutely. And can I just say, 30 years on, I never thought I'd be able to sit here and say, and so we rang the gas board. But hey...
There you go. Brilliant. Great stuff. Adrian Mills, thank you very much indeed.